You know, here we go with the auto stuff, man. And I'm just telling you, oh boy, I'm gonna just have to tell you, you know, globally, I mean, it sure seems like we've peaked. The numbers, the data that I see here is like telling you know, it's like, again, it's like 2005 and 6 all over. Very few people were like, hey, we got a problem here. Oh, no, the Federal Reserve, no, it's fine. We don't see any risk coming. Everybody else fine. And then it happened. And very few people knew. I mean, I wasn't even in the know of any of this stuff. I was talking 2006 and 7. I was just waking up. 05 is when I first took the leap of one step, looking at one little thing about peak oil or something. Is it real? Is it, you know? So even snippy. Now I think I got a grasp on things. I can kind of see, you know, stuff coming. I'm doing the videos, so I wasn't doing videos back then. I'm doing videos now. So the data and the things I'm reading, okay, hey, this is contrary to what I hear on the news or whatever, you know, they're telling me. China, of all places. China, this is Wolf Street. China auto sales plunge. And they face the first annual decline in 30 years? 3 decades? Industry panics, overcapacity spreads, but government brushes off the wailing and gnashing of teeth, looks into electric vehicles. Let me just stop. My dad, surprised he didn't say anything about it. Matter of fact, if he was here right now, as soon as I murmured out the word electric vehicle, he'd be like, oh, Joe, love the car, man. Every time he comes over, I hear about the car that I gave him, the Nissan Leaf, fully electric. I'm just going to tell you, they don't shift gears. They don't have tune-ups. They don't have air filter. Like, this is the future, my friends. And I do think, you know, maybe I will get one again in the future here. I do have my Tahoe, but that old girl will drink some gas. But it might make sense to take the Tahoe when I'm towing my trailer and Polaris and all that to do something. Electric vehicle, again, you will go hundreds and hundreds of miles. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. My dad told me he went nearly, I think, 1,000 miles on like $28. Something like that. He's like, I calculated. It's like $28, 1,000 miles. 28 bucks? Not 28 gallons, because there's no gas. $28. You can't even fill your car up for $28. He went 1,000 miles. Average car will go about 300, 350, whatever. Anyways. New vehicle sales in China plunged 13.9% in November compared to a year ago to 2.55 million units. The China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, or CAM, announced today this was the 5th month in a row of year-over-year drops and the steepest year-over-year drop since January 2012, which had been caused by the timing of the Lunar New Year. November brought sales for the first 11 months to 25.4 million new vehicles, a drop of 1.7% from a year ago. December is historically the strongest month of the year, and the November plunge bodes ill for December. CAM, which is backed by the Chinese government, has been ratcheting down its forecasts for year total sales to keep up with reality. On Tuesday, given the plunge in November, it lowered its sales forecast for 2018 to a drop of 3%. To put this sales decline for the year 2018 into perspective, this is something that has simply not happened in modern China. And it's a total shock to the industry that has only known growth, and mostly at breakneck speeds. Data going back to 1990 show relentless annual sales increases in many years by the double digits. Over the past 20 years, sales have boomed by a factor of 10. As sales stalled or fell in the U.S. and other developed markets, China was moving from automotive backwater to the globe's only automotive superpower. In 2012, China became the largest auto market in the world, trouncing the U.S. in 2017. New vehicle sales reached 28.9 million units. By comparison, in the U.S., the new vehicle sales dropped to 17.2 million units from the record of 17.6 million in 2016. China is not even playing in the same ballpark anymore. Oh, granted, there's only a tiny bit more population in China than the U.S., to be fair, but whatever. The trends are the trends and the data is the data. So whatever that is for China, 30 years of great growth has now turned into uh-oh. And what about all those empty cities? Remember the cities and the buildings, skyscrapers, malls that they built, and it's ghost towns. There's not a single human living there. The hell's going on with that? Just go Google it, YouTube it. China ghost towns. If you have not seen this, you'll be like, what the hell is this? China was like, we want to keep growth going no matter what. The government will just fund it. Don't worry about it. Just go. Even during the financial crisis, as auto sales were collapsing in the U.S., China auto sales boomed, powered by massive government incentives. The auto industry has been a big priority for the government. The industry's job was to turn the highways, bridges, and city streets that the government was massively building at blinding speed into parking lots, and it worked. In this economy, sales simply could not slow because they weren't allowed to, and the industry grew up in this steep growth forever environment, which, as you know, growth is not going to be forever. But now sales have dropped year over year for the past 5 months at an ever sharper rate. July, 4% down. August, 3.8%. September, 11.6%. October, 11.7%. And November, 13.9%. Down. There had been warnings. In 2007, new vehicle sales had grown only 3%, cooling from the blistering growth of 13.7% in 2016. Even though sales in both years had been propped up by a cut in the automobile sales tax on smaller cars, and at the beginning of 2018, the sales tax for these vehicles was allowed to revert to its normal level of 10%. For months, the industry has been clamoring for more stimulus measures, such as a broad cut in the auto tax, sales tax, but the Chinese government appears to have no appetite for them in terms of gasoline-powered vehicles. All the stimulus focus is on electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. The chorus from the government is that automakers have to adapt. It is unhealthy for the industry to depend on government assistance every time sales drops, explained CAM Deputy Secretary General Shi Yuanha. In a truly competitive market, good companies will prosper and bad companies will be forced to adjust and upgrade, he said. This can help us with the survival of the fittest and improve concentration in the industry, he said. At the briefing in Beijing today, which was a few days ago, CAM Assistant Secretary General Zhu Haidong put it this way: we're currently in a painful period, and this process is really tough. The weakness is among consumers, not businesses. Sales of passenger cars plunged 16% year over year in November and are down 2.8% year to date. Business is holding up. Sales of commercial vehicles rose 2% in November and 5% for the first 11 months of the year. But again, 5% all those other months, now it's down to 2%. With this historic decline of new vehicle sales is a booming sector. Sales of EVs, electric vehicles, and plug-in hybrids have surged 37.6% in November compared to a year ago. Year to date, sales in this category have skyrocketed 68% to 1.03 million vehicles, and at this growth rate are on track to reach the government's target of 2 million sales by 2020, but the category is currently still only 4% of the market. This is where the government is placing the incentives and subsidies, with some additional help from its muscular policies. For example, all foreign automakers in China must produce EVs in China starting next year. China's entire auto industry is built around the theme of endless rapid growth as a given. Numerous plants are being constructed to add capacity, even as overcapacity is already plaguing the industry. Just as sales are declining for the first time in recent history, this is a perfect setup for a big shakeout, and the government's refusal to jump in and save the sector one more time indicates that it might actually allow that shakeup to happen. A big shift at a cost of $3.8 billion, which is now has to borrow. Read, after wasting $14 billion on share buybacks, GM prepares for Carmageddon and shift to electric vehicles, cuts employees, and closes 8 plants. That's another article. But I'll spare you the sadness, I guess. I mean, maybe I could take a little peek. Posted out on November 26th. We recognize the need to stay in front of changing market conditions and customer preferences, explained GM CEO Mary Barra in perfect corporate speak in the statement released back then, November 26th. As employees are fretting about their jobs. The phrase changing market conditions in regular English means that sales are skidding in the U.S. despite enormous incentives. GM's new vehicle deliveries in the U.S. plunged 11% in the third quarter and are down 1.2% for the year. In Canada, GM sales have dropped 1.6% so far this year. GM apparently expects these market conditions to worsen further, and it's getting ready for it. So GM, and wasn't Donald Trump yelling at GM the other day about this, what they're doing? So GM is going to cut 15% of its salaried workers and salaried contract workers. At the end of 2017, GM had 54,000 salaried workers in North America. Of them, 52,000 are in the U.S. That's a lot of folks. 15% of these North American salaried workers amounts to 8,100 people. Included in this group are some people who may have already accepted voluntary buyouts. Again, that's kind of like, remember that I tell you about the pensions? You ever get a letter notice from the pension? You got a pension? Listen, we're having some difficulties. We'd like to settle with you. Here's the amount we're going to give you. And I'm like, if that were me, I would just take it and run. No, where do I sign? Where do I sign? Thank you. Give me it. Right now, crypto markets, terrible. That's where it would go. I'd take my whole damn pension. Boom. See ya. Because with the discount haircut that they gave me and where I think cryptos are going to go, I ain't got nothing left to lose. Put it right in there. Wait a few years and maybe be throwing a Hail Mary that pays off massively if that were me in a pension situation. And to streamline the decision-making, GM will slash 25% of its executives, starting with CEO Barra. Just kidding about that Barra part. 8 plants to get shuttered. The statement didn't mean the fate of hourly workers, but it did mention the fate of 8 plants as GM wanted to accelerate its transformation for the future. In the U.S., GM will unallocate 4 plants. That means production will cease and the plants will be shuttered in 2019. So that's 2 plants, assembly plants, Detroit, Hamtramck Assembly there in Lordstown Assembly in Warren, Ohio, and 2 propulsion plants, Baltimore operations in White Marsh, Maryland, and Warren transmission operations in Warren, Michigan. In Canada, GM will unallocate its assembly plant in Oshawa, Ontario. In South Korea, GM will close, as previously announced, its plant in Gunsan. And outside North America, GM will close 2 additional plants at undisclosed locations. So we can kind of see where this is going. You know, again, there's booms, there's busts. It's not the end of the world. It's not like this happens and then everything is, you know, we're going into the dark age or something. But it does suck because there's going to be industries where you may be affected. Some of you looking at me right now, maybe some of you are at one of these plants. Whoa, you know, I happen to have you as one of my subscribers. You know, it's hard to give advice. Or what would you do? You know, again, my thing is like, you know, I have my silver stash in case that thing finally takes off. I got my cryptos in case and when we think it really goes. But that doesn't help now. Like, I mean, if you're like, oh, I'm in a desperate spot, I need to pay the bills. You don't want to be selling crypto now to pay bills. Not at these prices. That's why, again, from day one, make sure you use money you can afford to lose. Not money that you're going to have to go liquidate. I need cash. Not the right thing to do. Investing is not your thing if that's the case. So, look, stuff happens. Maybe you were in a good spot. Now you're not. Whatever. It is what it is, right? But again, my mind's always moving, thinking, what can I do? Got to try this, try that. You know, I'm always in there. Just try something, try this, do just. It's built in to Snip's head, you know, to my head. But again, we've got a good president. I think because he's there, something that could be bad economically for us won't be nearly as bad. Take care.